All right, today's going to be a little bit about lessons about proportions. Of course, you're going to fill in the blanks where you see the red boxes. Copy exactly what is on my screen into your notes. It's that easy. All right, so we have proportions. There's several ways that we can write this. There's several things that we can look at to write proportions. So a study showed 4 out of 5 dentists preferred dentin gum. If 250 dentists were questioned, how many preferred dentin? So this is our scenario. This is our example. So when we write the proportions, we have to make sure that the parts are in the same place on both sides of the equal sign. So that means to have the same units in the same place on both sides of the equal sign. Um, so here we have 4 out of 5 dentists. So we have 5 total dentists. Of those 5 dentists, 4 of them preferred dentin gum. So 4 preferred out of 5 dentists. And then our problem has 250 dentists were questioned. How many preferred dentin? So we don't know the preferred amount, but we do know that there's 250 dentists total. So we need to make sure that our preferred and our dentists are in the same position on either side of the equal sign. Now we could have written the dentists on top and preferred on the bottom. It's not going to matter in the end which one goes on top, as long as they are in the same position on both sides of the equal sign. So these have to be in the same place on both sides of the equal sign. All right. Sometimes you will be given a table. So here we have a table, gallons of gas and how much it was paid, and we need to find that missing value. So again, we're going to make sure that if we start off our ratio, our first ratio, we have gallons over price. So gallons over price. We need to make sure that the other part of our ratio on the other side of the equal sign to make this proportion is the same. So here we have it written 15 gallons and paid $42.75 is equal to 75 gallons over an unknown value. That's our missing spot. So again, as long as gallons are in the same place on both sides of the equal sign, we could have had the price over the gallons. Most of the time when you deal with money, money's going to be in the top part. But as long as it's the same on both sides of the equal sign, you're fine. All right. Another example. A recipe calls for 2/3 cup of rice to make 8 servings. How many cups of rice will be needed for 18 servings? So we've got our 2/3 cup of rice over our servings. As long as we make sure to have the unknown or the cups of rice, which for this is unknown, over their servings, we're fine. As long as the parts, the units, match on both sides of the equation. So these are all different ways of writing our proportions, how we can read a problem and then write the proportion for it. Now we're going to actually look into solving the proportions. So here we have a question. Jalen makes 15 out of 20 free throws. His completion rate is 3 out of 4. We want to determine if this is a proportion. Of course, we know a proportion is an equation showing 2 equivalent ratios are equivalent. So are they proportional? How do we do that? To test that, it's a real simple process. We cross multiply. So if we take the 15 times the 4, we cross multiply. Some of you have probably heard it as butterflying. So the 15 times 4 is equal to 60. If it's a proportion, then we take the other part, 20 times 3, And if they equal the same number, then it's proportional. So here we have 60 equals 60. So yes, it is proportional. So again, we cross multiply or butterfly. And if they're the same value, they're proportional. All right, so here's another example. Now that we understand how to find that they're proportional, that lets us understand how we can set this up and use algebra to find the missing part. So to find the unknown value of a proportion, we can simply cross multiply and then divide the other number. So if we cross multiply 29 times x, that's gives us our 29x, 24 times 145. This is the algebra or cross multiplying and setting up an equation using algebra. And then we have to divide both sides by our unknown. So if we multiply 24 times 145 and do all that, this is the long method. Our short method is real simple. Cross multiply, divide. Is going to give us our same result. So if we take 24 times 145 and the divide by 29, we're going to get the same value. I don't know what I'm doing here. So if we multiply 24 times 145, that's this half of the equation, and then divide by 29, that's exactly what we had to do to get x by itself. So that's a simpler format of solving these proportions. If we're given a table and we're asked to determine if the data in the table is proportional. So here, determine if the data for wins is proportional to matches played. In this situation, we're going to try to we're going to get our ratios and simplify them and see if they simplify to the same value. Well, this quite easily we divide. The bottom divided into the top for this situation. So we know that 12 over 1 is as small as that ratio can go. It's a unit rate because it's to the rate of 1 on the bottom. If we divide 24 by 2, we know that that's going to be 12. So 12 over 1. We simplified it to 12 over 1. 48 over 4. We divide both by 4. We ended up with 12 over 1. 72 over 6. We divide both by 6, and we end up with 12 over 1. So we have this 12 over 1 ratio. And when it's simplified, since they all simplify to that same ratio, we have not only determined that they're proportional, but we also found our proportional constant. And a proportional constant is the constant ratio of one variable quantity to another to which it is proportional. So I know that 12 over 1 is proportional to 72 over 6 because it simplifies to the same constant ratio, or what we call the proportional constant. All right, that's the end of your note part. The rest of these slides are going to be your work or your practice. So here we have find the cross products to solve each proportion. So quite simply, as I've done here, so 8 times 3 equals 24. And then x times 4 is 4x. So that's where this x times 4 comes from. Cross multiplied is equal to 24. Now I divide by 4 and I end up with 6. So cross multiply and divide by the other number and you get your answer. So here you're going to do, this is where your work starts. So if I'm going to do this problem, I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do 5 times 4. And then I want to divide by the remaining number, the number that doesn't have a partner. So I divide by 2 is equal to my x value. So instead of actually doing the algebra like this first example over here, I did x times 4, 8 times 3, then I divided both sides by 4. I'm doing that all in one step here. So 5 times 4 is 20, divided by 2 is 10, is equal to x. This is the work that you have to show me. Oops, wrong button. So that's how you're going to show me your work for these. You're going to show me the cross multiplication and division. You can do that all in one line, or you can do it as this, and then give me my answer. So you got 4 problems here that you need to do on your own. You got to do these problems to get your credit. All right. So here, find the missing value for each proportion. So again, we're going to cross multiply. So for this problem, I'm going to do 26 times 3, divide by the other value that we haven't used yet, and that's going to equal my n. So 26 times 3 is 18, 78. 78 divided by 2 is 14. No, that's not 14. 34. Let me use my calculator. 26 times 3 equals 78 divided by 2 is 39. So 39 equals n. This is the work you have to show me, the minimum work. You can do the proportion, you can do the cross multiplying in the equation format, but this is the minimum. So here you have 4 problems that you have to do, these 4 problems, minimum work shown. All right, last thing you need to worry about. So number 10 I did already. It says write a proportion for each model. It doesn't give you the other part. So for this number 10, I counted how many squares there were. There were 5. I counted the circles, and there were 8. So 5 over 8 is the first part of my proportion. And that's going to equal something that has the same value. Well, I can't simplify 5 over 8 because 5 is prime. And 5 doesn't go into 8 evenly. So how do I get an equivalent ratio that will set up a proportion? Pretty easy. I just multiplied both the top and the bottom by 3, and I ended up with 15 over 24. I could have multiplied by 2. I could have multiplied by 5,000. I could have multiplied by 250,000 plus 1, as long as I do it to both parts of the fraction. So you have number 11 to do. Look at my example, write the equation, proportion. All right, number 12, you're going to solve it. You're going to use everything we've done, coming up with your proportion, solving it for the missing value, and then put your answer. Again, you have to show me the minimum work like the previous pages. If you have questions or concerns, I will be available on Zoom. You know how to get to my Zoom times from the home page. It'll give you the join code, the link, and the passcode. Till then, I will see you online.